And welcome everybody to another episode of Glove Up or Shut Up, right here on AngryMarks.com. This is our 4-year anniversary show, and once again I'm joined by my co-host from Omaha, Nebraska, Stevie J.
Greetings from the frozen north, where it's 0 outside with 20 degrees below. Oh wait, that's supposed to be you, but today it's me.
Yeah, we had a green Christmas here. It's weird. You know where they're getting snow, Stevie? Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas and here.
Vegas stole our snow, and they're going to be stealing our pay-per-view buys with a great show on Saturday. But I don't think they're going to have a problem selling out the arena there in Vegas, the MJ Grand Garden Arena.
Probably not. Not for this fight, anyway.
I hate to think what ticket prices are going to be for that show.
I bet you the front row tickets are probably scalping for like 5 Gs.
5 Gs?
For front row, you bet your ass I'd go to StubHub or something. I bet they are. Let's do that.
I think our friend Oliver Kopp can tell us he's there right now.
Let's do an experiment right here on the air. Let's go to StubHub and price front row tickets live while we're recording this podcast. Let's see what they're going for UFC 182. Pull up the page. Yes, John Jones versus Daniel Cormier. Priced starting at $192.45. That's the lowest price available on StubHub.
Whoa.
The top of the range is $3,240. So I wasn't that far off, Peter.
No, you were not. That's still that's a spicy meatball.
Yeah. Well, if you got that kind of money to play around with and you didn't buy a ticket in advance, then that's what it's going to cost you.
Yeah, exactly. We got UFC 182. We got lots of news to get to, and we're going to do the year-end awards. We have a bunch of categories like Fighter of the Year, Knockout of the Year, Submission, Breakthrough, Rising Star, whole bunch of stuff. So let's not waste any more time, and let's break down UFC 182 on Saturday night, this upcoming Saturday night. And the main card is stacked, but what do you think about the prelims on Fox Sports 1? And in Canada, now TSN, and of course the 2 fights on the Fight Pass.
I think you're right. It's a very stacked up card. They're trying to start 2015 out with a bang. They've been wanting to put together a card like this for a while, and this is one of those ones that if it doesn't do 1 million buys, it's going to come close enough to it to make everybody that's on it really, really happy.
Yeah, I think the show, if I do a prediction on the buy rate, I'm going to say 1.2 million easy.
That seems overly optimistic because they do so many UFC events now that even one as big as this one, a little bit of the luster comes off it when you can see fights for free on TV every single week and fights on Fight Pass every other week. So it's still big, and it's because it's Jones and Cormier and because they've built up a good card underneath it, but it's 99% the fact that John Jones and Daniel Cormier have some serious heat with each other, and have been talking trash for months and months now.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's start at the bottom here. The prelims on Fox Sports and TSN, Damon Dunham looks good. Sean Jordan and Jared Cannonier, how do you say that? Cannonier?
I'm guessing that's Cannonier. It's probably French.
That one looks okay. Marcus Brimage and Cody Garbrandt looks good. Danny Castillo, Paul Felder is the main event. That one, I don't know about that one, to be honest. I think Castillo will win that one.
It seems likely.
I don't know why you put that fight on the main card, on that position on the prelims. I mean,
it's what they always do, Peter. Why do we have to go over this every time?
No. I'm not saying it deserves to be on the main card. I'm thinking this fight doesn't. I don't think it's even main event prelim status. I think you put like Damon Dunham up there.
I know. I think you do this. I think Last Call Danny Castillo is a more popular fighter than Evan Dunham.
And Rodrigo Dam?
I think only the hardcores care about Rodrigo Dam.
Maybe. Looking at the main card, Josh Berkman and Hector Lombard. Lombard is the prototypical Jekyll and Hyde fighter. Josh Berkman, he could really make a name for himself here with the victory.
Kind of interesting where he's come from to be in this position now, don't you think?
Yeah, it's. I think this could be one of those fights that he has to just go. Like, obviously, you give 110% over in the cage, but this is a fight here that could really open a lot of eyes by a dominant victory here. But Lombard, if the dominant fighter we've seen in the past shows up in Vegas for this fight, man, it's gonna be quite the fight to kick off the main card.
Well, that's true, but I'm more getting at the fact that Berkman is a former UFC fighter who found more success outside of the UFC, particularly in the World Series of Fighting, where he won 4 out of 5 fights. So it's been a long layoff for him. He hasn't fought since March, but obviously this is kind of interesting timing that he's coming over from World Series of Fighting to fight Hector Lombard, who himself is, not he's been it's like each of these guys has been more successful outside of the Zuffa fold, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's definitely true, and a win here by Lombard, you could basically it would be a step in the right direction.
For him, it'd be 3 in a row. That would really put him on the right path.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think any of these guys are ranked right now, but a win here, you could make the argument for it.
Yeah, with wins over Shields and Marquardt, you could make a very solid case, but it would mean a lot for Josh Berkman to beat the number 6 guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. When it comes to Lombard, we've seen both sides of his fight. Like sometimes, like he's on the winning end the last couple times, as you said, but I think a win here really cements him in top 5 and gets him that much closer. But if he loses here, I don't know how far he tumbles down that welterweight ladder.
Maybe 12, 13, something like that.
Whoa, you put him at Rick Story level.
Well, if he loses to an unranked fighter, what would you do?
Hmm. I think you put him at 10, put him at just below Dong Hong Kim, or just above him.
Maybe, but it's ridiculous to even speculate, to be honest. Let's just move on to the next fight, because until the fight happens, then we'll see where he gets ranked.
All right, we got Horiguchi against Louis Gadnot in the flyweight division.
It's a French name. It's definitely a French-Canadian name. Gatineau.
Gadno. Horiguchi, I think, is underrated in this fight. I think a lot of people are going to be betting against him. And Horiguchi, I think, is going to be playing with house money here. He's 14-1. We saw him at UFC Fight Night, Hunt versus Nelson, and Fight Night Brown versus Silva. And, he debuted, back in 2013 at UFC 166, beating Dustin Page. So, I think the casual fan doesn't know about him, but they know about his opponent because of his appearance in The Ultimate Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, a 14-1 fighter is an underdog. I don't understand that, but
I think maybe the reason they've done that is because of the fact that Gatineau has probably faced a higher level of competition. I mean, he beat a guy like John Lineker, who is, we've talked about his issues and whatnot with making weight, but John Lineker is still one of the toughest guys in that weight class, and for Gatineau to have a win over him, even though he's like 6-3, it shows that he's fighting the best of the best.
well, Horiguchi did make short work of his last opponent, John Delos Reyes. 348 TKO. So he didn't suffer too much damage.
This is kind of a coin flip fight as far as I'm concerned. If Vegas has Gatineau as the favorite, it's probably a very narrow favorite.
Yeah,
but you're not going to tell me what the line is, are you?
What's that?
You're not going to tell me what the line is, are you?
No. I'm not going to go there. I'm just debating in my head about this one because, I'm going to go with Horiguchi, but God, I mean, he might pull one out of the rabbit out of the hat, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he might. Since you don't have the line, I've got the line. It's according to this, Horiguchi is a -800 favorite.
Really? I must have looked at the line much earlier than I thought.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what line you looked at because he's a heavy favorite on mine.
Wow. Maybe it was a line I'm not too. I should never check again.
Never leave it to the judges and never leave it to the last odds you looked at.
Yeah, pretty much. What about Brad Tavares and Nate Marquardt?
Now that's your coin flip, actually.
Yeah,
Marquardt's minus 135. Tavares is plus 115.
yeah. I think I'm gonna go with Tavares on this one. I think Nate's done in the UFC. I don't know how much more gas is left in that tank.
Well, every time we thought that he was done in the past, he's pulled one out of his ass. I mean, that armbar on James Tahuna was pretty freaking sweet.
It was a pretty sweet armbar. But think of it, he's 35 now, going to be 36 in April. I mean, he's been around for a long, long time, and you look at his last 5 fights, he's 2-3, and he's lost 3 of his last 4. But look at the 3 people he lost to: Lombard, Ellenberger, and Safadine. So
And I guess you could say the same when you're looking at Tavares, because, I mean, it's no disrespect when you've lost to Yoel Romero and Tim Bosch. Those are two tough as nails guys.
yeah, exactly. But do you, hmm, he. I don't. I hate saying this, but do you think this is a lose or lose town?
Not at all. No.
It's one of those things. I don't know if this is lose or lose town or not. It's in the ballpark of it.
I don't. I really don't buy that because, as far as the fight goes, I don't see either one of these guys being in that bad of a position. I mean, Tavares lost 2, but he won a whole bunch before that. And Marquardt, yeah, he lost 3 before he armbarred Tahuna, but unless he'd lost like 3 or 4 in a row, I wouldn't put him in that position either. So I don't
Yeah.
think either of these guys really have to worry about it. They should just go out there and let it all hang.
Well, we talked about this before. UFC definitely isn't in need of more fighters. Like you're not making cuts like they used to in the past because they had so little shows.
Yeah, they've got 45 cards to fill, so they've got to really be convinced that you don't have anything to offer, and we're going to get to that in a little bit.
We'll get there. Semi-main event sees Donald the Cowboy Cerrone against Miles the Fury Jury.
Number 4 against number 8, and I've got number 4 in this one.
Oh yeah, this is a fight Cerrone needs to win here to. I think he cracks the top 3 here. I think if he wins here decisively, he jumps Melendez.
Maybe, but the guy sitting pretty at number 1 right now is the last guy to hand Cerrone a loss. He's on a 5-fight win streak, and the last guy who beat him is currently the number 1 ranked.
Yeah. Well, do you put him ahead of Nurmagomedov?
Honestly, it's murderer's row for him at this point, which
Yeah.
is why in the interview that he did with our friend Heidi Fang at MMA Fight Corner, he was asked, what's he going to do if there's no fights above where he's ranked available for him, and he said, that's kind of the problem when you get to the top of the pyramid. There aren't a lot of fights for you, but I'm not going to sit around and wait because Dos Anjos gets the title shot, and then what? I'm going to take a fight.
Do you think he fights Melendez?
I think he's saying he'll fight anybody ranked above or below him as long as he stays busy. That's all he cares about.
Well, CM Punk could drop 20, 30 pounds and meet him at lightweight.
I don't think that's going to be considered competitive. No athletic commission's going to allow that.
Maybe Texas.
No, not even Texas would allow a 0-0 fighter to face Donald Cerrone.
No.
That's just like throwing a puppy to a shark. Come on now.
Well,
Here's a snack. Here you go.
yeah, pretty much. Here, I'll have one arm tied behind my back. Go for it.
Yeah, it wouldn't help. Donald Cerrone could have both arms and both legs tied behind his back, and he'd still beat CM Punk.
Here, you can wear a boxing glove.
You know what? He could come completely bound and gagged and tied up and still beat CM Punk.
I am looking forward to CM Punk's debut in the UFC, though, in all seriousness, because, all the training he's had in the past, he's been a jiu-jitsu guy for a while now. I think a lot of people are either going to, A, underestimate him, or B, hope he falls flat on his face.
But they're going to give him an opponent he's going to be competitive with. They're going to give him somebody at his level of experience. So Punk's probably not getting blown out of the water by a guy that's at the same level he's at.
No. He's definitely not facing a ranked fighter in his first fight out.
No way.
No. Anyways, let's move on to the main event here, the one everyone has been waiting months and months for, and I'm surprised, someone didn't get a shoe sponsorship out of this deal. But what do you do? John Jones, Daniel Cormier for light heavyweight title. 5 rounds of mayhem here. First question to you, Stevie. Does it go all 5 rounds?
I don't think so, no.
How come?
Because as much as we're going to rate Cormier highly as we break down this fight, because he's gotten to this position by basically blowing through everybody's face, he hasn't faced anybody like John Jones, and he's faced so much competition at heavyweight and so little competition at light heavyweight that it's a whole different ballgame now. And I believe I heard Dave Meltzer say this in a breakdown the other day, but it's like Cormier has never won the big one on the level that John Jones has. I mean, yeah, Cormier was a Strikeforce champion, but that's not the big one. Cormier was 4th in the Olympics, but that's not the big one. This is the big one. This is the brass ring. This is a whole different level, and John Jones has like a foot in height and reach. I mean, his reach, we've talked about it before, it's insane. And Cormier's got those takedowns, and he's got that wrestling, and he's got a pretty decent stand-up game. But is he really going to be able to reach Jones? Is he going to get in there on his legs to take him down? Is he going to get close enough to strike him? I find the answer is no, because the only person who's really been able to put a hand on him is Gustafsson.
Yeah, that's true.
And Gustafsson is a tall drink of water.
Yeah, Daniel Cormier is only 5'11".
Yeah, the difference between Cormier and Gustafsson is pretty self-evident.
Yeah. Looking at the numbers here, Cormier, he's only fought in one fight to go all 5 rounds. He's 15. What's that?
I'm not saying that Cormier wouldn't have he'd have the cardio to go all 5 rounds, but Jones is not going to let it go all 5 rounds. He's going to whittle him down, and by the 3rd round, he's going to be out of there.
Do you think Cormier, before this fight, was training for 5-round fights when he fought like Nelson and Cummings and Henderson?
I think that's the way they train there. I think all those AKA guys train like every fight's a 5-round fight.
Smart. It's definitely smart.
I mean, if you're going in there and training with Cain Velasquez, do you think he's training for anything less than 5 rounds?
No.
I guarantee you Cain Velasquez trains like he's fighting for 10 rounds. So anybody that trains with him is training the same.
It's funny. Somebody pointed this out to me. When Cormier fought Monson in Strikeforce, it was a Grand Prix reserve bout, and the main event was Overeem and Verdum.
That's true. That's all.
Can you imagine? It's only been 3.5 years since Overeem fought Verdum in Strikeforce, and look where they are now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Verdum is the champion, and Overeem is trying to reassert his career and get back on track, and Cormier is fighting for the title. It's an interesting world we live in.
I look at it this way: if the fight stays standing, Jones will definitely have the edge. But once the fight goes to the ground, you're in Cormier's world.
That's not necessarily what I would say.
No? What would you say?
I would say this is about effective takedowns. I'm not saying that Cormier couldn't shoot on John Jones and maybe get to him. Maybe. But Jones is a great wrestler, and he has great takedowns of his own. His takedown defense against other people that have gone in there and said they were going to wrestle with him has held up consistently. He doesn't get taken down much. And if he does, he gets up. That's the key for Cormier. If he can get to Jones, if he can get his arms around those legs for a single or a double, what does he do? Does he get Jones down and does he get on top and start mauling him, or does he go for an armbar, or does Jones just shrug it off and get right back up again? Because if your takedown's not effective, what's the point? You might try to outscore him on the scorecard, but don't count on it because he's going to stand there and pepper you with his reach all day. So you get one takedown and he beats you up for 4 minutes. Well, who won the round? The guy who beat you up for 4 minutes.
I look at this fight now from John Jones' perspective. We talked about his reach. I mean, his stand-up is insane. His ground game, I wouldn't give him the advantage on the ground game against Cormier, but he does have a decent ground game on his own.
And we've seen him get some sick submissions. We've seen him get people up against the cage and choke them out and let them drop like a sack of potatoes. I mean, people who doubt Jones' jiu-jitsu game are making a huge mistake in that category.
Yeah. So, boy, this is going to be so weird to say, but who wins this fight? Does Jones retain the championship, or for the first time since 2011, do we have a new light heavyweight champion?
Well, the Vegas odds give Cormier a fighting chance, no pun intended. He's only a dog at plus 135, and Jones is a 155 favorite, and those odds could get even closer by Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But for all the reasons I've already outlined, whether or not the takedowns are effective, whether or not this is a bigger mountain than Cormier has ever climbed before, whether or not he can go in there with a guy who's got a foot of height and reach on him, I just don't think it's going to be Cormier's day. I think he's game for the fight. I think he's ready for the fight. But I think the one telling thing we're really going to see in this fight is when John Jones targets that non-repaired knee, when he kicks at it, when he strikes at it, when he does those leg kicks and those push kicks. We're going to see how well Cormier's leg holds up, and I don't think it's going to hold up well.
I've been thinking about this prediction for a while now. Pretty much all over the Christmas holidays, really. And I just look at it as basically the opposite of what you're saying. I think it's Cormier's crowning achievement here. He is going to win the title and take it from John Jones. I'll even say this, Stevie, and I've been wrong before, but I'm pretty confident in this one. Cormier wins. He stops Jones. It won't go to the judges. Cormier wins decisively here. The referee's going to have to stop this fight.
Well, I'm equally as confident in my pick because, honestly, even Cormier on two legs would still have a problem with John Jones, but on one leg, he's not beating him.
Now, what do you do
That
if you're...
ACL is going to come up to haunt him. He's going to regret not getting surgery on it.
Now, what do you do about the Mauler here? Do you think they fly him in to sit cage side for this one?
I think they're pretty stupid if they don't.
Or, I mean, for argument's sake, say Cormier wins. Do you give Cormier and Gustafsson, or do you rematch Jones and Gustafsson? The winner gets Cormier.
I say let Gustafsson take the fight if he wants to, but you're assuming an awful lot. You're assuming Cormier even wins, so I think Gustafsson gets that shot no matter who the champion is because he's number one right now. If he wants it, it's his.
Yeah, I really think that Jones, for all the bravado and the trash talk both fighters have had, I really think that Cormier is going to surprise Jones or catch him or something's going to happen and the ball is going to bounce in Cormier's court, so to speak, and Cormier's going to take advantage of it, and that's all she wrote, and Jones will sit there in the corner surprised, like, what the hell just happened?
You can say whatever you want, Peter, but I'm going to close it on this note. The number one ranked pound-for-pound fighter in all of UFC right now is John Jones. Daniel Cormier, number 14 on that same list. There is a world of difference between those two men in terms of their experience, skill level, and the class of fighters they fought.
We've talked about that pound-for-pound ranking before. I mean, right now, Pettis is better than Velasquez.
Well, if that's just the fact that Pettis is more active and taking down better guys right now and Velasquez has been off for a while, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, at least they got Lawler over Hendricks on this last ranking, so...
Anyway, I'm just saying you can be confident in your pick. I'm very confident in mine.
Okay, fair enough. We agree, disagree. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll just move on.
All right, let's move on to the news, and we have a third set of fighters who have filed suit against the UFC. We've seen this before. We've talked about it before, but the new fighters are Pablo Garza and Brandon Vera.
I think at some point here, all of these different lawsuits are going to be joined together.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be one big ugly mess, and it's going to get ugly. It's going to be in the courts. It's going to drag itself out. I don't know how far it's going to go before a settlement is reached, but it's kind of scary in one sense.
Well, UFC can't be the biggest and the best without getting themselves in this position. You don't get to be number one or the best without having everybody try to take a piece out of you.
Yeah. Well, we do have a show in Brazil, UFC Fight Night 61 in February, and the co-main event is Michael Johnson against Edson Barbosa.
Really, I thought Johnson was suspended right now.
Oh, really?
I could have sworn. Let me go look, because I was just reading about this on MMA Mania earlier today, so...
Uh-oh, maybe I missed something. Maybe this is,
Maybe I missed something. Let me find the article. Editorial cue. Blah, 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 blah. Listening to me look up stuff on the air is always fun.
Great podcasting, exactly. Do you have an update on Rampage Jackson? Or?
Johnson is reinstated.
Okay, he's reinstated.
Let me read you the article from Mania.
All right.
Number 12 ranked UFC lightweight Michael Johnson has not competed since taking a unanimous decision over Melvin Guillard 9 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know the reason. Johnson was quietly barred from competition while an investigation was completed into a domestic dispute that occurred in South Florida. The Blackzilian-trained fighter was reinstated earlier this evening and given the green light to start training for his 155-pound showdown against Barboza.
Yeah.
So he's good to go. He was under suspension, a quiet suspension, but now he's cleared and ready to fight.
Now, let's go back to something we talked about last week. Rampage Jackson. Is there any update?
Not anything I've heard lately, other than the fact that Spike said they had a whole team of lawyers ready to sue the UFC. So,
yeah, I don't know. I thought maybe there was an update, but I guess not. It's something we're gonna have to check in on periodically to see, because the whole Viacom. I mean, that whole 45-day window excuse that Rampage was talking about. I don't know. It sounds a little wonky, but time will tell on that one.
Time will indeed tell.
What about UFC 184 in LA? It's going to be Raquel Pennington against Holly Holm.
That'll be a hell of a fight.
Do you think think the hardcores would? Think the casual fans would appreciate that, or think it's more of a hardcore fight?
I think if they do a good job of building up Holly Holm's fight record and the fact that she was winning her way through boxing tournaments left and right, they'll get some good interest out of that.
All right, let's talk about these cuts. And you caught me by surprise with the first one, but let's talk about it. Charlie Brenneman has been released by the UFC.
Well, 3 straight losses since he made his UFC return, so you can call it surprising if you want to. I call it expected.
Yeah. Also, Isaac Valley Flag also got released.
That guy never really got much traction in UFC. Honestly, I'm trying to think of one major win Valley Flag ever had since he came over from Strikeforce, and right now it eludes me. Perhaps you can tell me, fill me in. What was his big accomplishment in UFC?
Besides losing?
That's what I mean. Did he ever beat anybody of any note?
No, he had 4 fights and didn't really impress his friend. Didn't really, maybe he'll go back to the minors and win a couple fights. Who knows?
Maybe. Well, that's how Brenneman worked his way back, and then promptly lost 3 once he got back. So.
Now, we talked about this last week, Steve. World Series of Fighting 17. We were talking about Jesse Taylor in a main fight there. He has pulled out of his fight against Krasimir Mladenov. No word yet on the new opponent. Looks like an injury.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, he's forced to withdraw. The show is January 17th. No timetable yet in his return, so we'll probably get more details in the next couple of days.
That sounds right. We'll find out when we find out.
Yeah. As far as that goes, we talked about CM Punk. It looks like he's going to be fighting, I think, was it middleweight?
Yeah, it was either going to be welterweight or middleweight, not light heavyweight.
Iri Alcantara against Frankie Saenz. I can't speak today. Frankie Saenz has been added to the UFC. Fight Night 61 in Brazil.
Da, 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 da. Science!
Oh man, I just
I actually got
it's,
MMA Roasted to retweet me on that.
oh really?
Yeah, because he was like the very first Fight Pass prelim on one of these cards a few months ago. So I said, if Frankie Science chokes a guy out and gets the technical knockout, can we say that he was blinded by science? And they retweeted me on that.
Just a heads up, this is the one I want to talk about. CM Punk. The one thing that was announced this week was his fight camp. He's going to be training at Rufus Sport Martial Arts in Milwaukee.
Yep, absolutely. The former camp of Rose Namajunas.
Which, it's a great place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. She seemed to got a very good start there, although they had a separating of the ways, but she was getting some good instruction there from the Pettis brothers before she left.
All right, let's go to the year-end awards, and I sent you the list, Stevie, and I'll read off the first one here. Male Fighter of the Year. We got T.J. Dillashaw, Justin Gaethje, Jose Aldo, Donald Cerrone, Mauricio Verdum, and Conor McGregor.
Now, just to be clear, you're not borrowing the list of nominees from the Bazzies, are you?
I took a few off there, but there's a few I think I took from other places as well.
I guess out of those contenders, they're all pretty strong. I'm gonna rule out Gaethje because he's probably not the most known of this list. Although, if you follow World Series of Fighting, he's darn good. Jose Aldo, not active enough for me to be Fighter of the Year. Verdum, impressive in his path to becoming the interim heavyweight champion, but again, not as active as some of these others. McGregor has the most personality out of anybody on this list, so if you were giving it to charisma, you'd give it to him. Dillashaw beating Barao was probably the upset of the year, but that's a different category, so I'm going to go with Donald Cerrone because the man has won every single fight he's had in 2014, and he's had a lot.
I'm going to go with, on this list that's between Dillashaw and Cerrone, I'm just going to go with Dillashaw just for the fact that he won the title when no one thought he would.
Yeah, he was a 900 minus plus whatever dog in that fight.
And he's defended the title. It's not like a one-and-done thing. I think he, stepped up, won the title, and he's now the man. And I think he's a force to be reckoned with, and that makes him Fighter of the Year.
Again, if it weren't for the fact that Donald Cerrone hadn't won 4 fights in 2014, he won every fight in 2014 he took, I'd agree with you. But who has been the man more than Donald Cerrone? Who has shown up every single time and kicked ass more than Donald Cerrone?
In 2014, it's hard to make an argument.
You're right.
Female Fighter of the Year. There are, 5 fighters on this list, but let's just go ahead and give it to Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, hands down Ronda Rousey. I mean, watching what she did at UFC 175 in Vegas, there's no doubt in my mind.
Don't remind me.
That was you watched it on TV. I watched it in person, dude, and that was a fucking amazing thing to see.
Was that the one that was encapsulated in a Vine video? Was that short?
Yeah, that fight was that short.
The other nominees, Kat Zingano, Jessica Aguilar, Misha Tate, and Michelle Watterson.
All good fighters. Watterson probably gets a little tarnish on hers for losing to DiBercio in her last title fight, but she's still an amazing fighter, but none of them are really as amazing as Ronda.
Now, I'm going to save the Punch of the Year and Kick of the Year for our Twitter feed, so we can put that on Twitter.
Sure.
Let's go to Submission of the Year. There's a few on this list, and I'm just going to go out and say, I'm going to go with Bellator, Eduardo Dantas and Anthony Leon. Bellator 111.
That one was pretty good, but I'm going to go with Luke Rockhold over Tim Bosch.
Really?
Yeah, I really like that one. That was sweet.
All right. Upset of the Year.
We kind of already said it. Dillashaw over Barao. I think that's the winner here.
Yeah, I mean, the only one that could come close, you could make an argument for Brooks and Chandler, but Brooks has become just the man in that weight class in Bellator. It's like, you
could make the argument because the Bobby Green win over Josh Thompson was controversial.
Yes, it was.
So that might be
Unfortunately,
the upset of the year, just because nobody believed that Green actually won.
now, what about Breakthrough Fighter of the Year? Is this Brooks and Dillashaw co-winners here? Because those two guys, in their individual promotion, it's hard to make a case, for another person. I mean, Rockhold, Verdum, and Gaethje you could throw in there, but I mean, Brooks and Dillashaw, you could even say co-winners there.
See, I guess I can't give it to Rockhold because to break through means that you haven't already broken through, and I think
Yeah.
people who saw him fight in Strikeforce already knew he was the real deal. So I don't feel like that. And Verdum, same thing. I mean, if you saw him in Strikeforce, you kind of already knew he was the man. And I, it's got to be either Brooks or Dillashaw. So why not give it a tie? Let's say that we each picked one and we agreed that they could share it.
There you go. Let's skip Rising Star. We'll put that on Twitter as well, and go right to Match of the Year.
Man, now
Yeah,
this might be the hardest category of all.
I don't.
There were some amazing fights, and I saw at least one of these live, so I got a little bit of bias here, but man, these are all good fights.
Well,
Let's just read the list so everybody knows what they are. Matt
okay.
Brown and Eric Silva, which was fucking amazing because how many times did Eric Silva keep coming back and coming back after Matt Brown clocked him over and over again?
It reminded me of the GSP Dan Hardy fight.
Oh yeah, it was right up there in terms of being a slobber knocker back and forth. And Hendrickson Lawler, man, oh man, controversial or not, man, those two every time they fight, it's golden.
Absolutely.
And Whiteman and Machida, that one looked like it was in the bag for a while until Machida really turned it on in the later rounds and put on a hell of a performance and showed why he's still one of the best in the world, even in a losing effort. So that was an amazing fight. And Henderson and Hua, again, what can you say? But these guys, each time you think they're done, they go out there and do something to remind you they can still compete. Kern and Strauss, that was a pretty darn good fight too. I mean, I think it's hard to say that anything on this list. Aldo and Mendez was a great fight too. That every single one of these fights is a great fight.
So, what's your decision here? What are you picking for this one?
I'm trying to throw bias out the window because I wonder if I would feel the same way about Weidman and Machida if I hadn't been there.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that was so exciting being there live. I almost think I have to disqualify it because I'm assuming that if I watched that now on Fight Pass, it wouldn't seem the same as it was in the building that day. So, based on the rest of the contenders on this list, I'm actually going to go with Brown and Silva.
Really?
That honestly was every single second of that fight. I was on the edge of my seat thinking, oh my God, how is this guy not dead? Oh my God, he just hit him with a kick. He's doubled over. How is he going to survive that? Oh my God, I can't believe this fight is still going on. Oh my God, I can't believe they're not both dead. I kept oh my Godding every 5 seconds of that fight. So, Brown and Silva.
My pick is going to be, for some, a surprise and some not so much. I'm going to say my fight of the year was the fight between Johnny Hendricks and Robbie Lawler.
If it wasn't Brown and Silva, that was going to be my pick. But again, all 6 of these fights, they could all get it. So I don't think there's a wrong pick here. There's not a bad pick in this bunch.
No, and that's going to be the year-end awards. We'll put the rest of the stuff on Twitter there over the next between now and New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, what have you. But it's kind of weird thinking, Stevie. We started this show 4 years ago doing a post-fight recap of UFC 124.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing the preview for BJ Penn and, was it Frankie Edgar, the first one?
I think so, yes.
Wow. Can you believe that like 4 years ago? That just sounds weird to say that, but 4 years ago, it seems like yesterday we met in Montreal for the show.
That's true. It's been quite a journey since that time, and that was quite a weekend. That was one of the most epic trips I've ever had, one of the most fun I've ever had at a fight, and I even got on Yahoo Sports that weekend. Before I was very well known in the sports journalism world, I actually got interviewed by Yahoo Sports just waiting in line to get into the pre-fight pass event for that fight.
Yeah, I remember that. You were talking about that. We were discussing that as we were waiting for the prelims to start.
Mm-hmm.
But, hope everybody had a great holiday, and hopefully everyone has a safe and exciting and very fun New Year's Eve. They do the usual spiel: don't drink and drive, taxi, stay overnight, what have you. Just make sure you're around to stay. Make sure you're alive, and you can watch these fights, because you don't want to have something bad happen, right? You want to stay healthy. So
Yeah, we want you to party safe and responsibly. Here in Omaha, they have like a national, like call a cab type thing that airs every year on TV here, and they give you the names of like legal firms that'll pick up the tab for your cab ride, because that's their public service. Like, nobody wants to see you get in an accident or cause an accident or anything like that. If you don't think you can handle it, either plan a ride in advance or get a ride once you get to that point. Make a plan and stick to it.
absolutely. And there's one city councilor here. He has a New Year's Eve bash in his riding.
Who, Rob Ford?
What's that?
I'm sorry, I was making a Toronto mayor joke.
Oh, no, it's one of the city councilors, and it's called the Alcohol-Free New Year's Eve Bash. And it's at a skating rink, and it's outdoors, and it's a nice time, and you don't have to worry about alcohol or anything like that. It's more for the families, for the kids, and it's a great time. And I've been to parties downtown. Been to house parties, and it's just have fun with your friends and ring the new year. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will say it's kind of cool. The one downtown in Ottawa, Stevie, it's not a ball drop like in New York. You know what drops?
Let me guess, a hockey puck.
A maple leaf.
Oh, well, it was either that or a Molson beer.
Oh, jeez. Will you stop?
Actually, I wouldn't mind if a Molson beer dropped into my hand right now. Thank you very much.
And on that note, Stevie, we'll wrap it up for another year and look forward to 2015. And before we go, why don't you plug what's happening on Thursday night AMP this week?
Well, it's going to be a pretty special show to start out 2015 on the right note, because returning basically almost a year after the last time he was on my show, he's going to be part of our show again, only it's going to be a co-branded show. Nigel McGuinness will be on Undisputed Wrestling / Thursday AMP, because the Prophet Rick Craig and I are doing it together, and we're each bringing in another co-host. So I'm bringing Jordan Garber, and he's bringing somebody from his show, and we're all going to sit down with Nigel McGuinness to talk about LA fights.
Wow, that sounds like a great show.
Going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Like I said, we're starting 2015 with a bang.
No, I saw something about YouTube and the documentary he did. That it's like an edited version, like the one that was at the festivals.
Yeah, he released The Last Days of Nigel McGuinness to promote his LA Fights Kickstarter. Like, for 24 hours, it was available on YouTube that you could watch the entire thing.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I look forward to that show.
I still recommend people actually go out and get the documentary, because it's fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen it. It's good. It's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I really encourage all the wrestling fans listening to this podcast to definitely check that out for sure. And
if you want to know why you should support his Kickstarter, listen to our show on Thursday, and you'll find out all about it.
And next week we're going to review what happened in Vegas on Saturday night, and we'll find out if you were a prognosticator or you were a fool.
Prognosticator, yes.
Let me just pick up my tongue off the floor here, and
well, here's to 4 more years of you picking up your tongue off the floor. Thank you, Peter, for the last 4. I look forward to 4 more.
And 4 more after that, for sure, boss.
All right.
Well, for Stevie J, I'm Peter Ace, a hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening, and as I always say, never leave it to the judges. Good night, everybody.
Godspeed, and party on.